It was raining the night Elias Rowan met the boy. The city was quiet, except for the sound of water running through the streets, the hiss of passing tires, and the soft rhythm of a cane tapping on the wet pavement. Elias was moving slowly, careful with every step. He had walked this route 1,000 times before, home from the little music school where he still gave lessons to children. He knew the turns, the cracks, and the way the air changed near each corner. It was his map of sound and smell and memory, the way the world existed for him since the day he lost his sight 21 years ago. He stopped at a crosswalk and listened to the rain fall around him. It was the kind of night that made the world feel smaller. Somewhere in all that noise, 200-3808 hash, he heard it. Something faint, out of place. A small cry, almost swallowed by the storm. He turned his head toward it, listening again. The sound came once more, this time a little louder. It was a child, and he was crying. Elias hesitated only a moment before calling out. "Hello?" he said softly. "Are you all right?" There was a pause, and then the quiet, trembling voice of a boy answered. "I can't find my mom." Elias followed the sound until his cane touched the curb and his free hand brushed against a small shoulder. The boy was soaked through, shaking from cold and fear. Elias knelt beside him and rested a hand gently on his arm. "You're safe now," he said. "We'll find her together." The boy's name was Noah. He was 7 years old. He'd been walking with his mother when the crowd separated them. One moment she was there, the next she was gone, swallowed by rain and moving umbrellas. Elias told him to take his hand, and the boy did, gripping it tightly. "I can't see," Elias said, smiling softly. "But I know these streets. I'll guide us." Noah hesitated, then nodded even though the man couldn't see it. Together they began to walk. The journey was slow. Elias counted steps in his head, listening to the sounds of the city. The echo of an alley told him where he was. The smell of fresh bread from the bakery told him when they were close to Main Street. Noah stopped crying after a while. He started describing what he saw instead: bright signs, puddles that reflected the streetlights, people rushing by under umbrellas. Elias listened and smiled. It felt almost like seeing again. After a while, they reached a cafe. Elias remembered it from years before, when he still had his sight. He led Noah inside and asked the owner for help. The warmth hit them first, the scent of coffee and pastries filling the air. A few minutes later, the door opened hard, and a woman's voice broke through the sound of the rain. She was crying, calling her son's name. Noah ran to her, and she fell to her knees, holding him so tightly he could barely breathe. She thanked Elias again and again through tears. Elias only smiled and said, "You don't owe me anything. Just get him home safe." When the woman turned to say more, Elias had already left, disappearing into the night the same way he had come. For days after that, Elias thought about the boy. There was something pure about that moment. The fear, the trust, the way their hands had found each other in the rain. It reminded him of his wife, Claire. She used to say that sometimes life sends us people just when we need them most, even if we don't realize why. He missed her voice. He missed the light in the morning when she'd open the curtains and say it was going to be a good day. Since the accident, darkness had been his constant companion, but he had learned to live with it. That night with the boy, though, had stirred something he hadn't felt in years. A few nights later, he sat at his piano for the first time in a long time. His fingers hovered above the keys, uncertain. Then he played one note, and then another, and slowly a melody began to form. It was rough and quiet, but it filled the room like the sound of breathing after holding it too long. He thought of rain, of the boy's small voice, of hands finding each other in the dark. The music was his way of remembering that even blindness had light inside it. The next morning, he woke feeling strange. His chest ached, and the room spun slightly when he stood up. He brushed it off as exhaustion, but by evening the pain had spread. He was reaching for the phone when his knees gave way, and the world went silent. The last thing he remembered was hitting the floor and hearing a faint voice calling from somewhere far away. When he woke again, the world was filled with strange sounds, machines humming, soft footsteps, a steady beeping that matched the rhythm of his heartbeat. He realized he was in a hospital. A nurse came by and told him he'd been found unconscious in his apartment. His neighbor had called the ambulance just in time. She said if help had arrived 10 minutes later, he wouldn't have made it. Elias asked who the neighbor was. The nurse checked the chart. "A young man named Noah Carter," she said. "He's the one who saved you." The name sank into him slowly, like a wave rising and falling. Noah. Could it really be the same boy? It seemed impossible. Too much time had passed. But still, the thought stayed with him. Days later, when he was strong enough to walk, he heard a knock on his hospital door. A man stepped in. His voice was calm and young, but there was something in it, a softness that sounded familiar. "Mr. Rowan," he said, "I'm your neighbor." "I just wanted to check on you." Elias smiled faintly. "They told me your name," he said. "Noah." The man hesitated before answering. "Yes." There was silence between them, the kind that carries something unspoken. Elias turned his head slightly toward him. "I knew a boy once," he said. "He was lost in the rain. I helped him find his mother." He gave a small laugh. "That was a long time ago, though." The young man didn't reply right away. Then his voice broke slightly. "It wasn't that long ago for me," he said. "I've never forgotten it." Elias felt his throat tighten. "That was you," he whispered. "After all these years?" Noah nodded, though the blind man couldn't see it. "I always wanted to find you," Noah said. "You don't remember, but you held my hand and told me everything would be all right." That moment stayed with me. I think it's the reason I became a doctor. Elias's eyes filled with tears he couldn't hide. "And now you've saved me," he said quietly. "Maybe that's how life balances things." Noah shook his head. "No," he said. "You saved me first." After that day, they saw each other often. Noah would visit after his hospital shifts, bringing food or books for Elias to listen to. Sometimes he'd sit beside the piano and listen as Elias played. The melodies were softer now, filled with a peace that hadn't been there before. They talked about everything: music, memories, the strange ways life ties people together. Elias told him about Claire, about the accident, about the years he spent learning to find beauty in what he couldn't see. Noah listened quietly, often fighting tears. To him, Elias wasn't just a blind man. He was a teacher, a reminder that even the darkest moments can hold meaning. One evening, after a long talk, Elias said something Noah would never forget. "People think blindness is the absence of sight," he said, "but it's not. It's the presence of everything else: sound, touch, memory, kindness. You don't stop seeing, you just start seeing differently." Noah thought about that for a long time. It changed the way he looked at his patients, the way he looked at life. Months passed. Elias grew weaker. His heart condition worsened, and the doctors told him there wasn't much more they could do. Noah was there every day, sitting by his bed, reading him stories or just talking about ordinary things. One night, Elias asked him to play a recording of the rain. "It helps me sleep," he said. They sat together listening to it, and after a while, Elias said quietly, "You know, I think the rain brought us both here. It took a lot from me once, but it gave me something back too." Noah reached for his hand. "You gave me something first," he said. "When I was 7, I was lost and terrified. You didn't even know who I was, but you found me anyway. You taught me what it means to care for someone. Everything I've done since then started that night." Elias smiled faintly. "Then I guess we saved each other," he said. His breathing slowed, and the silence stretched between them. Before he drifted off to sleep, he said one last thing. "Kindness never disappears, Noah. It just finds its way back." Elias passed away quietly a few days later. The world felt a little emptier after he was gone, but Noah kept his words close. He arranged a small memorial at the music school where Elias used to teach. Former students came, neighbors, even the woman who owned the cafe. They shared stories about the old blind teacher who had taught them more than music. He had taught them how to listen. After everyone left, Noah sat alone at the piano. He placed his hands on the keys and tried to remember the melody Elias used to play, the one born from the sound of rain. Slowly, he found it. The notes rose softly, trembling but full of life. As he played, he felt something shift inside him, a quiet understanding that this was what Elias meant all along. The light we give doesn't vanish. It travels, through moments, through people, through time. When the last note faded, Noah looked up at the empty room. The air felt still, almost sacred. He whispered, "Thank you," not expecting an answer. But in that silence, he felt it. The same calm he'd felt as a child, the hand that guided him through the storm. Years had passed, lives had changed, but the kindness of one man had shaped everything. Outside, rain began to fall again. People hurried under umbrellas, the city lights bending in the puddles. Somewhere in that sound, Noah thought he could hear Elias's music, the soft echo of a life that had never truly gone dark. He smiled through his tears, realizing that every act of compassion, no matter how small, leaves a trace that never fades. And maybe that's what life is. A circle of moments, each one reaching for the next. A blind man helps a lost child. Years later, that child saves him. And in the space between, the world keeps turning, quietly carrying the light they shared. Because sometimes, the smallest kindness in the darkest night becomes the very thing that saves us all.